So do you want to get better at your favorite sports? Well, if you do, you've come to the right place. Hi, welcome back to the channel. Hope everybody's doing well. Hope you're staying happy and healthy and you're out there exercising and having fun. So whether you're running, swimming, skiing, playing football, or soccer for those of us in the US, could tools that are using sensors and AI analytics help you get better? Well, that's what we're going to take a look at in this video, and we're going to talk about both what those tools do and whether they can help us improve. And because we're going to talk about 5 different sports, I will mark the sections in the timeline below so you can go to the sports that you're most interested in, or the tools that you're most interested in. And on a quick note before we dive in, I'm not being paid for doing this by the companies that we're going to talk about or anyone else for that matter. I have no inside information. I'm doing this out of the goodness of my heart. And if you like what I'm doing and if you're enjoying it, well, feel free to click like and subscribe. And with that, let's dive in. So from a technology perspective, most of the tools that we're going to talk about use a sensor or two. They use various analytics, whether it's AI or something else. They usually have a smartphone app and, of course, a website. And some may also use GPS. Now, whereas the sensors go, most common ones are an accelerometer, a gyroscope, and a magnetometer. Now, accelerometers, of course, sense acceleration, that is change of speed. Gyroscope sense what is known as angular velocity, which means that they sense the direction of force, which direction the force is applied in. And magnetometers are just compasses, quite frankly, which obviously sense the direction of travel. Running is obviously fundamental to a number of sports, and so for that reason we're going to start by looking at a couple of apps that look at running gait. And in particular, they look for asymmetries, they look for loading, and things like this. And the companies are RunEasy and Dana Sports. Now, they aim to do the same thing, but they do it somewhat differently with somewhat different sensors. And so starting with RunEasy, what they have is a belt with a sensor that goes on your waist. And based on that, based on the analysis from that sensor, they can analyze things such as symmetry and loading and dynamic stability to generate a holistic view of how you move and some recommendations based on that. Dana uses a sock with sensors, and so what they have is a sensor that is sort of around your ankle and sensors in the bottom of the socks. This is what it looks like. And because they can measure the pressure that you apply on your feet, they also, of course, get a very good understanding of what that means in terms of how you progress through your gait, and can obviously give you some recommendations based on that. Now, as I think we all appreciate, before we change our gait, we really need to understand, or our asymmetries, for instance, due to the fact that one leg is longer than the other, which is quite common. Is it that one leg is stronger than the other? Is it that we are better balanced on one leg than the other? That's really the level that we need to get to before we can start changing our gait and our stride. And so hopefully once you get the data from one of these apps, that can help you understand what's going on and you can figure out a plan for how to address it. And so talking about pressure on your feet, that is, of course, exactly what we need to pay attention when we ski, and in particular when we try to carve on modern-shaped skis. And there is an app that does just that for skiing. It's called, fittingly enough, Carve. And the foundation of Carve is a footbed. They have a footbed that you stick in your boot underneath the liner, and it has some 30 sensors embedded in it that senses not only which foot you're putting pressure on and how much, but also where on the foot, fore and aft, you're putting your pressure. And you put one of these pads into each of your ski boots, of course. And based on that, it can sense how the pressure changes throughout a turn, and it can compare what you're doing and how your pressure changes to what you ideally would be doing in an ideal turn. And it can give you real-time coaching for your headset, through your phone to which the pods are connected to, or you can look at it afterwards on either the app or a website to understand sort of your performance and look at asymmetries and whatnot and compare yourself to sort of the ideal way in which you would ski, the ideal way in which you would shift pressure in your foot throughout the turn. And the cool thing about it is it can help you really do two things. First of all, it can make you aware of sort of physiological asymmetries. Once again, it could be differences in the length of your legs, it could be differences in strength, it could be differences in balance. And it can also, of course, point to sort of things from a more technique point of view that you can work on. And so what Carve does for skiers, Swim Better does for swimmers. It's a very analogous concept. What they have are two pods which swimmers attach to the palms of their hands and which collect the data as you swim. And it allows you to understand things like stroke rates and force from each stroke applied by each hand, the force field that you generate, the stroke path, stroke velocity. It obviously can compare sort of the two strokes, to look for left and right imbalances, and based on that, understand how you need to improve them. So the next tool is called Vert, and it's focused on volleyball. And in particular, what it's trying to address is volleyball injuries, which are predominantly caused by landing after spiking the ball. And so by keeping track of the number of jumps that a player has, how high they are, and their landings, it tries to understand the forces that are involved so that both players and coaches can manage both the frequency and the type of jumps and the types of landings, and therefore hopefully reduce injuries. And so football, also known as soccer, is obviously the king of sports, the most popular sport on the face of earth. And I would be remiss if I didn't look at some tools that can help football players become better. And so we're going to look at 5. They all try to do somewhat similar things, but because they use different sensors, they obviously capture somewhat different data and give you somewhat different analysis. And so starting by Footbar, which has a tool called Meteor, and they have a sensor that is worn on the player's main leg, sort of around the calf or just below the knee. And it collects data on things such as mobility, so distance, the number of sprints, running versus walking, as well as shooting, the velocity of the shooting foot, the number of passes, and that kind of useful stuff. Jogo is the next company that we're going to look at, and it has a pair of insoles that you stick into your cleats, which capture data, and they generate, once again, very similar data in terms of both of movement as well as passing and shooting. Playmaker has a strap that you put on top of your cleats, and that strap holds a sensor, which once again captures information and touches, running, left-right balance, and that kind of stuff. Now, Manchester City, the British football club, interestingly enough, has taken the Playmaker technology and they have combined it with their playbook. And so they have their own app, in effect, their own solution, which uses the data collected by the Playmaker technology combined with their insights, which once again give you an assessment of how good a soccer player you are and what you need to do to become better. And finally, the 5th one is Catapult. Now, Catapult is a little bit different from the other one because it uses a GPS-based sensor that is worn in a vest. And so because of that, it collects mostly GPS-based movement data, which will include things like distance, speed, power, and that like, and it doesn't have any information on touches and shooting for obvious reasons. So can these tools help us become better athletes? Having participated in all 5 of these sports, I think they actually could. And what I'm particularly excited about is that they help make us aware of our weaknesses and our imbalances. And so if we take the time to understand the data, and if we take the time to figure out what it is that we need to do to fix that, and then go and do it, then they can also help us, quite frankly, keep track of our progress. Are we getting better with regards to, the weaknesses, the flaws that we had, based on what we've decided to do about it? And if not, then we may have to go back to square one and try again and sort of figure out what else we need to do. So from that point of view, I'm actually very excited and very hopeful about these solutions, that they're going to help us get better and hopefully save people both frustration and save them from unnecessary injuries. So now I want to hear from you. What do you think about these solutions? Are you excited about any of them, or are you thinking about trying them? Let us know. We'd love to know. And with that, that's it for this video, folks. I hope you found it useful, interesting, and let me know what you think. Click like, click subscribe if you like them, and please leave comments. Take good care. Be well. Bye-bye.